Russia sees as the enemy. And they will do anything to undermine them as best they can. And when they have the advantage and when they have the momentum, they will take it. And that Russian idea of defeating your adversaries by splitting them up, by promoting divisions among them and within them, it seems almost ridiculous to think about it. But that strategy even extends to us as well. It even extends to us in the United States of America in a very specific way. You might have heard about the newly energized current iteration of the California secessionist movement, the California separatist movement. There have been low-key, low-profile kind of California insurrectionist movements for years. It's generally conservative parts of California that say California should split up and the liberal and urban and minority-heavy part of the state should be its own thing, while the conservative, rural, white part of California should become like a, southern Idaho or something. That kind of thing has existed for a long time. What's new in California is this surprisingly slick, online organized, moderate or even progressive-seeming effort that California as a whole should secede from the United States of America. I'm from California. My whole family lives in California. I know lots of people in California who have talked to me, half joking or not, about how appealing this Calexit idea is since Donald Trump was elected president. But the leader of the organization that has spearheaded that movement, the leader of Yes California, he really does live in Russia. He lives in Siberia. Last September, the Yes California guy, who conveniently lives in Russia, the Calexit guy, and also some right-wing Texas separatists all got invited to Moscow, to the Ritz Hotel in central Moscow for a Kremlin-funded conference called the Anti-Globalization Movement of Russia. And I know it sounds nuts. Look it up on Snopes.com if you don't believe me. There you will find links to the Embassy of the Independent Republic of California, with the tweet announcing its founding, half in English, half in Cyrillic, and an explanation from the Calexit founder, who lives in Russia, that the separatist California embassy office space is being loaned to him in Moscow free of charge. He says he doesn't actually know who owns the office space. Maybe it's privately owned. He doesn't know. Maybe it's the Russian government. Who can tell? But it's sure nice to have free office space for his California separatist movement that he's running from Russia. That's a ridiculous story, right? That is a ridiculous idea. It is cartoonish, but it's real. And imagine if your goal was to take the United States down a few pegs in the esteem of the world, in terms of global leadership, in terms of the way the rest of the world looked up to the United States for help or for advice, or, conceivably as an exemplar of democracy, certainly as a pinnacle economic power. Imagine how helpful it would be if your goal was to erode all of that, to hurt all of that. Imagine how helpful it would be to that goal if you had a chance, even a slim chance, even a hilarious, cartoonish, tiny chance of splitting off from the United States one of its 50 states that on its own terms is the 6th largest economy in the world. You pry California off the United States, California literally has a bigger economy than France does. I mean, yeah, it would be nice to pry Germany out of the EU, pry France out of the EU. But you know what? The EU is splitting apart on its own. We'll do what we can to help, but let's think big. Theresa May is the British Prime Minister who will now be tasked with managing Britain pulling out of the European Union. She is not the politician who was credited with Britain's decision to leave the EU. That honor goes to Nigel Farage, who was the leader of the UK Independence Party, which spearheaded the Brexit campaign. Nigel Farage has become mildly famous in this country for his frequent appearances alongside Donald Trump and at Trump Tower and at the White House. Oddly, the day that WikiLeaks held its press conference to crow about the fact that they were releasing a devastating document dump that experts say essentially exposed the entire cyber arsenal of the CIA, on that same day, Nigel Farage was at the Embassy of Ecuador, where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange lives, and from which he gave his press conference that day. A BuzzFeed News reporter saw Nigel Farage leaving the embassy that day and asked him what he was doing there. Nigel Farage responded by saying that he couldn't remember. He said he had no idea what he had just been doing inside that building. More recently, this past week, Nigel Farage has been in California, raising money among conservatives and Trump supporters in California to support California seceding from the United States, or at least splitting itself in two. Today, the